From the barbershop chair to the back row seat. You feel what we feel, then repeat. Then repeat. Black men speak. Talk faith, talk pain, talk pride, talk father. Talk sons by our side. Every story that they said was weak, you gon' hear us talk on. Black men speak. Turn it up, let the truth run deep. Say it, from the barbershop chair to the back row seat.
Well, welcome to Black Men Speak, a podcast where we celebrate ordinary Black men doing extraordinary things. I'm your host, Keith Dent, and today on our Pinnacle of Color series, where we explore the stories, struggles, and triumphs that shape the Black experience in business and entrepreneurship. We're sharing stories that remind us that success isn't just about what we build, it's about what you bring along on the journey. So today we're talking about something we could all use a little bit more of, and that's magic. Not the kind of you see on a stage, but the kind that happens when the right person you meet at the right time, when an idea becomes a movement, when strangers become collaborators, and when community becomes the catalyst for lasting change. Our guest today is Jae Henderson. He has spent more than 15 years making that kind of magic happen. His career has taken him from Capitol Hill to Sweden, from working with food chemists and software developers to cowboys and distillers. That's a pretty diverse group there. While the settings have changed, one thing has remained constant. Jae has a unique ability to connect people from different backgrounds and help them create something bigger than they could have imagined on their own. Today, as CEO of DC Urban Oasis, he's continued that work by creating spaces where entrepreneurship, innovation, and community don't just coexist, they thrive together. In a world that's increasingly divided, Jae reminds us that our greatest breakthroughs often come from our greatest differences. The most powerful ideas aren't born in echo chambers, they're forged at the intersection of diverse experiences, perspective, and purpose. So today we'll explore what it means to build businesses with intention, create communities that matter, and discover why the most valuable asset any leader can have isn't money, technology, or even strategy. It's the ability to connect people in meaningful ways. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a community leader, or someone with a dream, that's what waiting for the right opportunity. This conversation will challenge you to think differently about leadership, collaboration, and relationships that shape our future. So settle in. I hope you have a pen and paper. Take notes if you need to. But really, I look forward to this connection that we're just going to get into. So, Jae, welcome to the show.
Hey. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and just get into it. So magic, you describe your career as creating magic by bringing people together with completely different perspectives. So, where did that philosophy come from, and why do you consider that your superpower?
Yeah, I sat back and thought about this a few years ago because it's often really difficult to explain to people how my background is so varied and what the things are that actually connect all of these seemingly disconnected things that I've done and industries that I've been in and been a part of. And so when I sat back to think about what was kind of the linchpin in all of those experiences, but also the thing that I uniquely brought, just this idea of magic kept coming back to me. And the reason why I thought of it as magic is because, my background is primarily in product development. And so specifically taking an idea and making it real, and when you just think about the process that is actually required to go from an idea to oh, it's either a physical thing or a digital thing. I started coding early on, and I mean like HTML, CSS3. You know what I mean? Before we were talking about frameworks and vibe coding and all of that, and you just had it was a blank canvas, right? And then you would just start typing. And then all of a sudden that blank canvas turned into, words that were on a interface, and then it turned into design, and then it turned into so many other things that you can interact and engage with. And so to me, that's one part of magic, going from nothing to something that is real for you. And then I was able to do that over and over again, not just in the kind of software development side, but also with people, right? And ideas. And I recognize that is a really unique thing. Not everyone can create those moments where you have that like aha or that connection, or you go from nothing, a blank canvas, to something that you can experience. So that's what I think is magic, right? Part of it is, going from nothing to something. And then part of it is going from individuals to really becoming a team, a collective, and a group of individuals who can ultimately execute and move things forward. But then finally, the last thing I would say about magic is, especially in product development, you start with ideation, you start with brainstorming, right? What are all the things that this could be? And then you have to actually put pen to paper or whatever, medium you're doing to make that thing real. And there's this moment in between where you go from brainstorming to what it could be to now there's a prototype, right? And then the prototype is actually working. And then it's like, oh, and now the prototype isn't just working. You put it into the hands of someone else, right? Whether it's a customer or a user, and now they're interacting and engaging with it. And I think that in each of those moments, as that thing is developing, there's so much magic, is what I would call it, that happens in between.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty fascinating. And that's way above my not brain capacity, but because I can not necessarily think of something that will be able to transfer to someone else. I could connect or take a product and maybe run with it, but to be in the whole entire process and not and be able to allow others to use it takes a great skill set. Magic, I guess.
It's a little magic, man. It's a little magic.
So so let's talk about initially DC Urban Oasis, where you're the CEO. And it's about more than physical spaces. It's kind of about creating environments where ideas and communities can thrive. So describe DC Urban Oasis, and what does it mean to you beyond just the name?
Yeah. So DC Urban Oasis, my wife and I started together in 2021, actually. So we're originally from California, and we moved to Washington, D.C. during the pandemic in 2020. And what a time, first of all.
Yes, absolutely.
The pandemic was a blessing and a curse. A blessing because now my wife and I, we weren't even married yet. We weren't even engaged yet. But at that time, we got to spend so much time together that we started to realize that, this really is my person. Right. And then we were able to explore different things together. She's really into history. We were both really into food and beverage. And so, I started a garden, and we started just diving into research and history. She had this restaurant concept idea called Azúcar Negra, which means black sugar in Spanish. And it was inspired by a song of the same name by the late, great Celia Cruz, Queen of Soul.
Okay.
And so then my wife had this restaurant idea of taking, of exploring African retentions in Latin American cuisine, because oftentimes we eat similar things, similar ingredients, but we don't talk about it. And so, again, during the pandemic, we had this opportunity to kind of explore that. She did the historical kind of deep dive into it, and then I had the garden, and then I can cook. I'm not a chef, all right, but I can hook things up.
You can dabble a little bit.
I do a little something.
Okay.
And so then we started playing around with those recipes and the concepts and the ideas. So fast forward 2020, we moved to DC, And 2021, we started the business, DC Urban Oasis, first with the idea of creating physical space. So we started with our physical space. We had an Airbnb short-term rental. We also had long-term rentals. But the idea behind the physical space to start is that you need a home base, right?
Okay.
Ownership is very, very important to me. I believe fully in owning land and owning. I believe in ownership, period, right? I believe in owning the outcome.
Right.
I believe in owning physical space. I believe in owning my IP, my intelligence, and everything else. So it started with physical space to create environments where people could really feel home away from home. Because oftentimes we go into spaces, but we don't feel like we belong there, right? It feels like you are, an outsider, even when you're coming inside of spaces. So that's what it started. That's the foundation, right? Then I previously worked at an estate distillery. So I helped bring, I think it was approximately $180 million project to life from, again, idea to a physical space. And so I have a background in food and beverage from the distillery side.
Okay.
So after the physical spaces, we started with experiences and the cocktail experience specifically. So shout out to Capri Robinson. Capri is a fantastic bartender and human being. She was also the 2-time U.S. Bartender of the Year. She was on Netflix Drink Masters, and that was the first person I partnered with on the cocktail experience. And so what we were doing is bringing intimate groups of people together, right? So it was like 8 people, I think we were doing. And then we were taking them through a guided tasting of spirits, some education on spirits. And then how do you take that, gin or vodka or whiskey or whatever, and actually make a delicious cocktail with it, and teaching them how to make cocktails and the history behind it. So that was kind of what we started with, experiences. And what I noticed there, I'll go back to this whole idea of magic. What I noticed there is people came in shy at first, right? They were quiet, a little timid, because again, they were strangers. They didn't know each other 9 times out of 10. They were quiet. They were timid. Man, about 30 minutes in, people are chatting. They're talking about each other's families. They're getting to they're conversing in a way that felt more natural and comfortable. And by the end of it, they're cheersing, they're taking each other's numbers, they high fives and hugs. And I could see the transformation happen, like literally over and over and over again. So that was what really started our experiences. And then after the cocktail experience, we started the supper club experience. So it goes back to what I was telling you earlier about us experimenting with those recipes, but we took it a step further. So first we tested the idea, so it was me cooking, her talking about it. We invited a few friends over, and a magical moment happened where they were like, this was so good, I would pay for this. And we were like, what?
Oh, wow. What?
What? Like you
How
would
much?
pay? Yeah, exactly. Right.
How
You know what I
much?
mean? So it was like, okay, great. So we have something here. Right. And then it went from us cooking to us curating. I had already had a few chef friends. And so I hit them up and said, hey, we have this concept. Would you be willing to be a chef, and featured to do this? And that's how our experiences took off. So now we have, again, the rentals, so physical space. We also have these different experiences that we host, and we do private and corporate curated food and beverage experiences, which are all behind storytelling, connection, and discovery. So it's really about bringing people together. I personally think there's no better way to bring people together than food and beverage, because we all have to eat and we all have to drink something, right? Doesn't matter if it's water or a cocktail or a mocktail. And so it's been an amazing experience to build that company, to be building it also alongside and with my wife, because I've been building for other people for 15 years, and so this gave me the opportunity to build something that was mine, right? And that I owned from end to end. And with someone, and I was building it with someone that's extremely special to me as well. So it's awesome. Been an amazing journey. Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah. No,
that was a long response.
It led to, of course it led to a couple of questions there. So you mentioned just the history of food from African cuisine and Latinx. So what are some of those things that are similar that we don't really, I guess, communicate? Because we usually in a food perspective, they're separate. So I'd love to hear that part.
Yeah, you know what's interesting? So in this, I've also learned so much as well. So I'm from South Central LA. So we had a very large African American and Mexican specifically population there. So I grew up kind of in and around those two cultures. But one very specific example is hibiscus, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
hibiscus flower is seen throughout the diaspora, many diasporas, and it grows abundantly. So a lot of different cultures will take the same hibiscus flower and create different things with it, specifically beverages. In Mexican culture, they call it Jamaica, right? And then in other cultures, they call it zobo, and then other cultures
Mm.
they call it sobolo, right? But it's the exact same flour that's taken to create a beverage, and all of us drink this beverage, but we call it completely different things. And then
Wow.
so some people may add or tweak the recipe, add a little pineapple juice, someone else adds ginger, someone else doesn't, but the base of it is exactly the same.
Oh, wow.
And we
Yeah.
don't talk about it, right?
No, we
Another
don't.
example of that is there's a dish called kimbombo. It is a okra fish stew dish.
It sounds
What
great.
does that sound like? Gumbo.
Sounds fantastic. Yeah.
Right? It sounds like gumbo, right? Kimbombo and gumbo are essentially cousin dishes, right? They're the same dish. They both
Oh, I did not
include,
know that.
yeah, they both include the okra specifically is the linchpin in both of those
Well, I
cuisines.
make a
But
mean gumbo, but not
yo,
with
hey,
but not with okra though,
let's trade.
because
Let's
I know
trade.
most of my family wouldn't eat it. So, but I would
What
love
what base do you do? Do you do a root base or do you do a tomato base?
no roux base, of
All right,
course.
there you go. There you go. Same, man. We might have to have a gumbo cook-off
Yeah,
because
that'd be fun.
I became the gumbo maker in my family when I was about 22.
Okay.
22 is when my grandmother handed me the reins, and I was like, "Hey, let's take it. Let's run with it."
I know I have
It means a
I
lot.
have a mandate that I have to make it twice a year.
Twice. Oh,
Yeah, and of course it's
they're asking a
usually
lot.
yeah, that's what I said. But usually because it's usually a dish best where you usually in the winter, not in the
Exactly.
summer. So that means that means I have to make it in October and like January.
Right.
But
Oh
I've
man, I
gotten
love
used to
it.
it. But then you also mentioned connection with Capri Robinson. So
Mm.
did you just kind of cold call and reach out to her and explain the concept, or did you have a connection with her already? And then how did that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mentioned that we moved here and my wife and I hadn't been even engaged yet, right? And so,
Okay.
actually, when we moved to DC, we got engaged in November 2020. Funny story about that is it was actually the exact day that we found out that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris had won the presidency. Because if you recall back then, there was
Yeah.
like a little delay in the
Yeah.
results,
Yeah.
right? And so I could have planned it. I couldn't have planned it if I wanted to, but DC was just exploded with, everyone was so happy and it was a celebratory moment. And I had already planned the proposal, of course, but that was the day we got engaged.
Oh,
So
wow. Okay.
fast forward, I was looking for someone to create the recipes for the cocktails for our wedding.
Oh, okay.
Because I knew that we wanted, unique cocktails. We wanted to do one that represented her, one that was, more in my speed and represented me. And so I was on like a Facebook group, honestly, and I just put it out there and said, I'm looking for someone who's able to create, a cocktail recipe for my wedding. And someone else suggested I reach out to Capri. And so I just kind of, I guess semi cold, reached out to her,
Okay.
and she was just amazing. So she created the cocktail recipes for our wedding. And then afterwards, because she has such good just energy about her, and she really embodied everything that I would say hospitality is missing, right? Like she was just warm and welcoming and hospitable, and she ain't know me from, the next guy, right? I had just met her, but it felt like we were just connected. And so I told my wife, because she had been harassing me about starting a cocktail experience or something to do with,
Right.
with spirits. And so I told her, I'll do it, but only if Capri does it with me, because I just think that Capri is fantastic. And Capri said yes. And this is now our 4th year running the cocktail experience. We've been running 4 years together, and it's grown and it's changed, and it's really been incredible.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, yeah, and along those lines, just from that type of connection, you've really had different connections, from Capitol Hill to Sweden to the Nevada's distillery, which you mentioned, which says to kind of, to me, there's an openness to you personally. So if you look back, what are kind of some of the threads that has connected these unrelated experiences?
Yeah, that's a great question. Two things immediately come to mind. One is the opportunity to create something new, to bring something new into the world. So when I was on Capitol Hill, I was interning for the late Congressman John Lewis. And during the time that I was there, I actually got to work on his notes for a closed Senate hearing on DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, which eventually was repealed. And so again, that was like an opportunity to create change, to do something that was kind of lasting and that would bring more people the ability to be happy. You know what I mean? Like it seems so simple, but it's actually creating access and creating an opportunity for people to just live a more fulfilling life. And then in Sweden, it was something very similar. In Sweden, I was in Stockholm specifically, and we were working on accessibility as it related to tourism. So how to make the tourism experience more accessible to people who had impairments, whether mobile impairments or eyesight or hearing. It's like, how do you create an experience for them to be able to fully take in the beauty of Stockholm as tourists? And it's very similar with the distillery, right? The distillery, we were not originally in the distilled spirits industry at all, but our CEO one day came and said, "Hey, I want to make whiskey," and we were like, "What are you talking about?" At that time, we were in commercial real estate, residential real estate, events and conferencing. We had a biodiesel plant. We had just bought a used cooking oil collection company. Listen, I knew nothing about these things until the challenge was kind of presented.
Right.
I'm always a like, I don't know how we're gonna do it, but I believe it can be done. And so like, let's get it, So yes, I think that the thread between each of those was the opportunity again to bring something new to life and build something new that was more inclusive. Recently I've been thinking about this idea of inclusive world redesign, because the world wasn't really designed for the greatest number of people to participate in it and live in it in a way that's beneficial to all. Most things are created so that a select number of people are able to live well and everybody else has to figure it out. Right? But things can be built and rebuilt in a way that more people are able to live good, fulfilling lives. And if you look at it from that frame, I think that's why I'm industry agnostic, right? Because there's so many industries where you can rebuild, where you can, one, build something, but two, like redevelop something that's more inclusive for all, no matter if you're making, booze, if you're making alcohol, or you're actually making, policy. So
right.
That's the thread, man. And it's been a beautiful journey thus far.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, and I love the fact that you said you're just open and to just seeing the opportunity and trying it out, because that's really the only way you will know if it will work, is just being open to trying it and see if it works out, and if it doesn't, you move on, which is pretty cool.
Absolutely.
So, of course, when we, kind of in our society, we focus on building products or companies and not really focusing on building relationships first.
Mhm.
But that seems to be kind of your mantra or MO.
Yeah.
Why do you feel that's kind of your competitive advantage?
We're throwing in the NBA words now. All right. He's at the competitive.
Well, I mean, look, the Lakers just got bought today, and I was like blown out of my mind.
Oh my goodness.
So
Like,
hey,
we can take this podcast a whole different way if you want to get into it. No.
So we might as well focus on this.
Right. Yeah. So I do think, well, first of all, people build things. I think that people build things, companies or products sometimes just purely out of ego and not necessarily out of thinking of how other people will actually benefit from it or utilize it, right? So to me, the only reason why a business is successful is because human beings have decided that that thing is worthwhile and they're willing to put their money or their energy or whatever behind it. And so instead of building for the sake of my ego, I prefer to build for the sake of people. And that means that I need to have relationships with human beings, right? Because ultimately that's going to be, how that business or that product or whatever is used and also how it's successful. So I think it's actually really simple. But I realize also that a lot of people don't see it that way, and I'm just like, that don't make sense to me. That don't make sense to me. Like, everything is about relationships. Everything is about human connections. Even in the world of AI and AI agents, if it wasn't for the fact that human beings created artificial intelligence to do certain tasks and carry those things out for their benefit, then AI wouldn't exist either, right? So everything to me is about relationships. Everything to me is about human beings and human connection. And I value that over, again, just my ego, because I want to build a shiny thing.
Well, a couple things on that, but isn't that interesting? Well, because with people, we have kind of short attention span. So how does one who builds a program or a company like that, how does it become sustainable? Because people switch off so quickly.
Yeah. Well, you have to build for what matters to people, right? You build for your audience again. So, for example, I'll take DC Urban Oasis, right? Part of what DC Urban Oasis does is our supper clubs. Our supper clubs are very, very intimate experiences. It's a multi-course, chef-led experience, but it's also, again, really rooted in discovery. So it's usually about 12 people, at least for our public version of the DC Supper Club. Usually 12 people. It's in a private residence. It's between a 4 to 6 course meal. You're there for at least 2 hours, sometimes 2.5. There's curated drinks and food and conversation, and even the seating chart is very intentional. We do everything with the highest level of attention and intention. Right. And so we try to bring people together in this very specific way. Well, as we're building that, you could say, well, Jay, why do people keep coming back? Right. They can go to a restaurant. They can go, like, there's so many ways to eat around here. How do you get their attention? Why do they keep coming back to the supper club? Well, it's because what we've built is something that they can't just walk into, on a Tuesday and consume in mass. What we've built is the opportunity for them to slow down, to actually build real connections, to actually learn something, right? And it's not just another meal. And that's what people have told me, right? So I'm not just saying this because it's my marketing. I'm saying this because guests have come and come back and come back. And I've asked them directly, why is it that you keep coming back? And they say it's the relationships that I've built with the strangers that were around the table. Right there, it's the opportunity to just like slow down and converse. And a lot of folks have told me that they are actually introverted in their outside world, their outside persona. But when they come to supper clubs, it gives them the opportunity to be curious and be open and chat with strangers in a way that doesn't feel threatening. Right. And so I think that, to answer your question directly, how do you get attention and break through the noise? You figure out what people are actually longing for, right? You figure out what they actually need and want, and you build that, right? So for
Mm.
us, we recognize people are lonely and they're longing for connection. And so food and beverage, again, I think is one of the best ways to connect people. I think is one of the best bridge builders. And so that to me would be, I mean, it's how I'm building, and it's actually my advice to anyone who wants to build a product, a service, an initiative. You build it for the people and what they need.
I love that. Well, when you said introverted, would you say you're introverted by nature, or you're more extroverted?
Man, I will sit in a quiet room with my book all day.
Okay. All right. All
But
right.
I guess someone recently told me about being an ambivert, where you can kind of take energy from either one. It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
we're ambivert,
Okay.
where I have to have my quiet moments to recharge,
Okay.
but in the right circles and the right circumstances, I can be extroverted, right, and also get energy from other people in spaces. Like the supper club really gives me energy, but I'll be honest, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work to produce. But then once it's going and people, I see how it's affecting people, how it's impacting people positively, I take energy from that. Right. So I'm an ambivert, but I need my quiet time. I need to
Okay.
just sit somewhere with a book sometimes.
I hear you. I hear you. I want to hear what book
What
you
about
read.
you? How would you describe your?
Um, I love a good party. So I would probably meet everybody in the room more
Okay.
than likely. Because I think connections kind of are the key. And or that person that's sitting next to me will be my lifelong friend, because
Yeah.
I think, which I have an idea, but we'll talk about afterwards. Uh, I think because all you really have to do is ask the right questions.
Right.
And because I know I've worked with kind of young people on stream, and they're like, well, how? And it's usually people will ask, well, how can I meet somebody? And I was like, oh, it's quite simple. I think all you have to do is hone in on maybe one thing, maybe just how they look, maybe they have great shoes or something
Yeah.
that you notice, and just ask. Tell it. That's how you start. Tell them you like their shoes, or and take it from there. Where did you get them? And before you know it, you have a conversation that is really built out of nothing, just the environment
Yeah.
that you're in. And so I think that's the trick, really.
Yeah.
And
No, I agree 100%. And people love a compliment. You
yeah,
know, I if I'm looking for, if I'm in a room similar to you, I'll kind of scan the room and feel it out. And then if I can find something to compliment someone on, that's where I lean first, right? Instead of like, hi, I'm Jay. What do you do for work? Be
yeah,
like, oh man, I really like that shirt, or like, you have a great smile. Like you just have great energy. And I just want to be around that. People love a good compliment, and it definitely breaks the ice really, really well, I think.
yeah, yeah. So, but I think in certain environments, depending on the energy, I try to but I end up hanging back, and I don't know why, but I think it just happens at times. So you don't want
Mhm.
to, you don't just want to go in and start like gangbusters. And I think also with age too, or experience, you tend to, now you tend to hang back a little more. Well, at least I do. So I think that's kind
Mhm.
of the thing. But yeah, but I think that's a really cool experience that you've kind of curated and created. But tell me about a project that looked like it might fail, but ultimately became one of your great successes. What really made the difference?
Ooh, one that looked like it might fail but became successful. That's a great
Or,
question.
or the other way around, one that you thought was going to be great, but then it just ultimately didn't work.
Mm, both great questions. Okay, let me see. Let me see. I think I have one. So in product development specifically, there are many. First of all, most businesses fail, right?
Right.
Within 5 years or less, especially in the food and beverage industry. There's a high failure rate, or closing rate, I should say, within less than 5 years. So I used to work in corporate innovation, and I was a product lead for a light industrial staffing agency. So basically, what folks did is like, some of them were building chassis, for example, that go under bus, like a manufacturing line, right?
Yeah.
And so we were the staffing agency that places those workers in these different warehouses and manufacturing.
I don't
facilities.
know about you. That doesn't sound like light industrial to me, but
Yeah, right. Well, it's only the chassis. That's why it's light. I don't know. I don't.
Gotcha.
So it's light industrial manufacturing. Well, one of them was also, they called folks a picker. So, for example, Deckers. If you're familiar with Deckers, if you buy, a box of shoes, right? You buy shoes as a consumer. Somebody is sitting in the warehouse, and literally they're just grabbing a box from here and putting it here, and all day they do that. 10 hours. That's called a picker, right? And so that's also like
picker and packer. Yep.
Picker and packer. Yeah, and so while I worked there, my job was basically to figure out what the different problems were, the pain points, and then create ideas to solve those things. Sounds simple, right? It's crazy, actually. The process is wild. So we found all these issues, of course, and depending on who you're talking to, it's more urgent or less urgent for them, right? But what we eventually settled on was, we recognized that there was a retention issue, right, for almost all of these companies, because people don't want to pick and pack for 10 hours a day, for however many months, right? And then sometimes it actually was that their expectations just weren't met. So what would happen is people would come, and again, it's temporary staffing. So they're supposed to be staffed for, let's say, 6 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever. But what we found was they would come, they would work for like 4 hours, and then they would never show up again after lunch. And so there was a huge turnover issue, and it was causing a lot of pain, a lot of problems for all these different companies. So long story short, we started crafting all of these different solutions, or ideas of solutions, to try and solve this very, very costly, expensive issue. And through that process, you come up with ideas and you test the ideas, and then you have to determine whether the idea goes forward or you stop. Go forward or stop. And you do that process over and over and over again. So ultimately, we decided that we would work on something that helped better set the expectations in the early stages before people accepted the position. And that by doing that, our theory was that by doing that in the early stages, people knew what they were getting into. So they had a better idea of it. And then because they knew what they were getting into, they would stay longer. That was the hypothesis, right? Cool. So how do you do that? All right. So we started running all these experiments, and we were like, can we, so we followed a cohort of people, and then we would manually note, did this person come back day one, day two, day three, first week, second week? And we had a specific target that we were looking for. Like if 70% of the people who go through our new little system, if 70% of people who go through this system stay past the 2-week point, we know we've got something, right? But if we don't see a big variance in the people who went through our program versus who didn't, then we don't know, it's kind of inconclusive. So long story short, we ran this process for, 3 months or something like that. And depending on which location we were at, we had varying levels of success. And so we were kind of like, ooh, we don't know if this solution is really going to work or not. And then what we found was we tweaked it. right? Because it was looking like it wasn't going to work. Then we tweaked it slightly and we focused very specifically, I think, on manufacturing is what we did. So instead of trying to do it for all different types of industries and things, we just like, okay, let's just focus on manufacturing. And that was kind of a turning point for us. And we realized that the solution worked well, but only in specific scenarios. But again, it was very successful. We found that it was actually going to save the company like $17 or $18 million in annual recurring revenue if we implemented it. And it was a low cost solution. Like, so it wasn't like we have to spend $5 million to make 17. No, it was like you could implement this little thing within these parameters and it would save the organization almost $20 million a year. So at a certain point, it was looking like maybe this isn't going to work. Wow. But once we tweaked it, we actually found the opportunity.
Interesting. That's awesome. Now, just a quick question, because we talked about AI, just mentioned it. Do you think AI would have been able to figure this out?
I think that there's a time and place for AI. I think AI is a tool, but I'm of the very strong opinion AI does not replace the need for humans. Okay. Because what we found was through observation, right? So it wasn't like it was something in a spreadsheet. It wasn't like it was structured data or unstructured data, right? It was like I'm sitting with a human being and we're face to face and having a conversation and I'm deducing what you actually mean from the words you're saying and your body language and all these little factors and putting all of that together. So I think that AI could have potentially sped things up for us, right? To get to those aha moments.
But you would have had to input some of those things first.
Exactly. I think that it still doesn't replace the need to talk to people and have humans engaged.
So we still need humans. Gotcha.
We still need humans.
Okay.
For most things anyway.
We're going to do a few quick questions because I want to know about you. So
all right, let's do it.
You said you're a book reader. What book? You can either answer one or the other. You said you're reading a book now, or you love a good book. What are you reading now, or what book should every person read?
Oh man. So, okay, I'm going to answer this. I'm going to answer both questions.
Okay.
So my absolute favorite book in the entire world is The Alchemist. By Paulo Coelho, I think is how you pronounce his name. Yeah. Hopefully I didn't butcher his name. That is my absolute favorite book. I've read it 6 times. Every time that I reread the book, I get something else from it. Like, and I think it's because I'm at a different place in my life every time I read it. So the context changes for me. And I love that book. I think that everyone should read it. It's incredible to me. The 2 books that I'm currently reading.
And I think he wrote The Mastery of Love. I don't know if you haven't read that, you should read that. That's fantastic. But that's a great book too. Yeah.
All right. Look, you just put me on. I appreciate that. And then I'm reading 2 books right now. One is called The Man the Moment Demands by Jason Wilson. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
Mm-mm.
Oh man. So Jason Wilson, first of all, is like, he's fantastic. You should look him up. Very, very smart brother, but also he talks about being a comprehensive man, basically well-rounded, a well-rounded individual. And, kind of getting rid of some of our toxic stuff that we carry. I'll put it that way. Okay. So I'm reading that one right now. A friend and he and I have like a 2-person book club. So we read it and then we send each other notes every week of like what we took away from it. Super dope. And the second book that I'm currently reading is called Unreasonable Hospitality. I think it's Unreasonable. Yeah. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And the remarkable power of giving people more than they expect. Right. So it is also fantastic. And again, it's about going above and beyond, right, of what people expect and just like knocking it out of the park and crushing that. So for someone who's in hospitality and creating unique experiences that connect people, that book has been phenomenal for me.
Okay. Love that. What's one connection you've made that completely changed your life?
Ooh, that changed my life. Man, that's deep. That's deep.
Yeah, we go deep on here.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. Man, a connection that changed my life. You know, I'm gonna go back to John Lewis.
And we didn't
literally,
even really touch upon that, but
it literally changed my life working with him. It changed my mindset, you know, and it changed the trajectory of my career. I started there coding websites. So I was coding his website as far as learning CSS and HTML. So I was making changes to the website. And because I was then had that on my resume when I graduated college, then I was able to actually say, oh, I know how to, you know, code basic websites. And that's something that my hiring manager at that time saw and was like, oh, this guy can do anything. So that connection, you know, absolutely changed my life positively through and through and through.
Okay. If you, in your next supper club, if you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to make sure they're there, who would they be and why?
That's another tough one. Dang, who would they be? Who would they be? Living or dead? Yeah. This is random. This is random.
Random. Yeah.
Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac would be
Bernie Mac. Okay.
Bernie Mac. Because I immediately was like, a comedian would be really dope, right? Like,
okay.
Because I think that they are able to poke fun and bring people together in a very particular way. And Bernie Mac remind me of so many of my uncles.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, slightly inappropriate, but like saying some real stuff. So I would invite Bernie Mac. I would probably invite who else do I think is? I would invite Jay-Z.
Okay.
I'm a very, very big Jay-Z fan. But also, like, as far as music goes, but also I think he is just a fantastic businessman. He has a great, great business mind. So I would definitely invite Jay. And then, you know what? Since I'm on the rap theme at the moment, I'm going Kendrick. I'm going Kendrick Lamar as my third.
All right.
I'm going Kendrick, Jay-Z, and Bernie Mac. Those are going to be my 3.
I love that.
That's going to be a hell of a dinner party too. That would.
Oh, that would be fantastic. That would be great.
I don't know what I would feed them, but it would be fun. It would be a good time.
Oh, you have some gumbo. I mean, gumbo.
Hey,
you know,
there you go.
Gumbo would work for anybody. I love the music thing. I would definitely have to have Marvin Gaye there.
Oh,
Marvin Gaye would be there. No, not even a question. Because I just saw the Earth, Wind and Fire documentary, which was interesting. I would have Maurice White would be there.
Okay.
And then if we're gonna stay in the maybe I wonder if and I definitely would have to just have President Obama there.
I did think about that, but I was like, no, I can't. Let me go with somebody else.
I would, he would just have to be there. So no doubt about that. What's something that you're still curious to learn?
Oh, there's so much I'm still curious to learn. There's so much. I'm very, very curious right now, especially as it relates to nanotechnology and advanced technology and AI, but not in generative AI. I mean, like AI and its application in things like identifying cancer early on, right? Like early detection and how it can be used to cure certain diseases, or I'm really, really interested in things like that right now. I'm also very curious about like just different cultures, like how different people live, like that's really big for me. Like, and that's why I love travel so much, as well. Also why I love food so much. So I'm really curious about that. And then finally, learning Spanish. It's on my my to-do list. It's on my to-do list. My wife speaks Spanish fluently.
Oh, she does? Oh, and you don't know how to speak Spanish yet?
Bro. So I can read Spanish. I can understand Spanish.
Okay.
I cannot respond.
Mm.
Right. So that's where my issue is. Like, I can make out what's happening in every scenario, generally speaking, but I don't speak enough Spanish to respond. And
Gotcha.
so that's something that I'm genuinely leaning into
I hear
once I
you.
find some time in the
I
next
hear
few
you.
years.
It's funny, the whole kind of foresight question, because I mean, when I took Spanish 1, I did okay. And when I got to Spanish 2, I was like, nah, this is not working. But of course, at that time, you didn't see the importance of knowing another language because of, how population would change and how much of a benefit it would be. I would have probably just studied a little more, or told my parents to send me to Mexico or Colombia, somewhere,
Right.
for
Right.
a summer. But that's pretty awesome. Well, I want to thank you for coming
Of course.
today. I just wanted to say thank you before we end. And if someone wanted to participate in a DC Urban Oasis or a supper club, how would they find it?
Yeah, so they could definitely go to our website, which is dcurbanoasis.com. There they can send a request for a private event, or they can actually see what our public events schedule is as well. They can go to our Instagram page, which is dc.urbanoasis. So they could kind of see what's coming up for our different experiences there as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, those are the two major ways that they can find us. We're pretty easy to
All right.
find.
Awesome. Okay. So before we go, and our last question, the podcast is called Black Men Speak, and so just wanted to know, what legacy do you hope people experience, not just remember because they had an opportunity to work with you or experience what you're trying to offer in the world?
All right, say that one more time.
Okay.
Legacy.
Yes, because our podcast is called Black Men Speak, where Black men do extraordinary things. What legacy do you hope people experience, not just remember because they had an opportunity to work with you or experience what you're bringing into the world?
Yeah. Legacy is a big one. You know what? I want people to have an enhanced, like, I think often about enhancing the human experience. And what I mean about the human experiences is even the basic stuff like food and beverage, like discovery and curiosity and connection. Um, how can we have an experience here? Life is hard. Life is hard, right? We get thrown curveballs and so many difficulties. So when I think about the legacy that I want to leave behind, I want people to feel like, man, like they learned something new that positively benefited them, right? That they can now do something or think broader or bigger or differently, that they're empowered more, that even just like, because of Jay, I was able to, make these great connections or feel better about myself, or, cry it out or laugh it out. I want them to have that lasting feeling of some level of fulfillment, I guess, and enjoyment, because we don't get enough of that often, especially as Black men. I think that we don't always have the opportunity, whether we don't allow ourselves to have opportunity or we feel like, external factors, we don't always
Right.
have the opportunity to let our guards down and just laugh and be taken care of and be nurtured, and be connected, and have somebody who it feels like, that person has my back and my best interest in mind.
Right.
So that's what I want to leave behind, and that I empowered people to live a more fulfilling life, whether it was something as small as, a delicious meal that really filled their bellies, or that it was something that I said or did that filled their cup. So that's it.
Well, I want to end that you definitely filled my cup today, not just from our talk, but the man moment demands. I love that. and I can't wait to check that book out. I mean, I do a book series, so
Oh, nice.
hopefully the author may be on one of our book discussions. So Jae, I really appreciate you being on today, and hope we'll connect soon.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Keith. This has been great, man. Speaking of filling my cup, you know, I definitely feel good going into the rest of the day after this. So I'm going to carry this energy into the rest of the week too. I appreciate you.
Awesome. All right. Give me a sec as I close out. Well, thank you for this midday series on the Pinnacle of Color series on Black Men Speak. I really look forward to future discussions, and I'm glad you were here today. So tune in this Sunday, because we'll be doing we're doing back-to-back, but I'll be interviewing Dr. Errol Southers on his book, and I really look forward to it. We're going to be talking about, a lot of political, espionage and stuff like that. And he was also talking about Homeland Security. So please tune in, and we'll look forward to speaking to all of you soon. This is Keith Dent from the Black Men Speak podcast. Peace.